Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody tuning in. Supatease back here with another PvP guide, and in this one, I'll be playing Elemental Shaman, going against a composition that targeted me start to finish in this specific matchup, and against Assassination Rogues in particular, which can be quite difficult as an Elemental Shaman to deal with. This video was requested on how I dealt with being attacked by double melee compositions, or how you deal with being trained in general as an Elemental Shaman, and that's definitely where your skills are going to be put to the limit, really. In this specific scenario, I opt to run Spectral Recovery, the Honor talent, with Spirit Wolf, the normal talent. These two talents together make your Ghost Wolf kind of like a Panzer tank and sort of impenetrable, and it's really all about your Ghost Wolf timings, your Frost Shocks, and your Thunderstorms. And if you work well with these three abilities, you're going to have a much easier time to survive. And there's a lot of points in this game in particular that my Mistweaver was kind of doubting my capabilities to survive, and I was able to pull out of those situations just by the skin of my teeth by effectively kiting. So at the start of the match, you would like to find the rogue in stealth, or at least get combat so that your healer doesn't get sapped. Immediately get flame shocks on as many targets as possible and start generating maelstrom so you can do a big bang attack. Here you can see the rogue opens with a kidney shot from stealth. You want to play far away from your healer so that the rogue has to move over to the healer. And then I use Thunderstorm as my first attempt there to break up the crowd control, and then immediately use Grounding Totem to attempt to ground an incoming freezing trap. Unfortunately, their rogue was able to secure a sap, and because they were, I immediately used Astral Shift and Ghost Wolf. And while in Ghost Wolf, I am healing myself with the Honor talent, Spectral Recovery. So all I need to do is avoid them. So I'm avoiding the rogue right now. I don't want to get stunned. Kidney Shot is up. I would like to avoid being stunned at least until my Mistweaver is out of crowd control so that he can then trade a cooldown. Regardless, the pressure was high enough that we had to use a Life Cocoon regardless. We go for a double stun combination with a leg sweep on the rogue and a lightning lasso on the hunter to desperately kind of peel them off my back, because this initial attack was quite devastating and put us very far behind. I opt to use Trinket on this kidney shot. It would have been wiser to save it for at least one more second, because the smoke bomb hadn't quite been committed just yet. That was a bit of a premature play on my part. As soon as I see Freezing Trap on my Mistweaver, I immediately use Ghost Wolf, and it was important that I was staying quite a ways away from my Mistweaver so I could see the hunter use Grappling Hook. He won't have a good way of getting back to me once committing that. And as soon as he does that, I know he wants to crowd control. So I can just start kiting even before he's even attacking me. And then as the crowd control chain begins to end, you want to make a loop right back to your healer so that they can then top you off quite easily. And I broke that crowd control chain by purging off the mind control of my Mistweaver from the priest. Now in this position, I'm in a kidney shot, but there is no crowd control on my Mistweaver monk, which means I'm A-OK, and I do not need to start kiting. You always want to pay attention to that frame, the Colo, the monk there, his frame, the green box. Now you see a box next to it with a 4 on it. That means he's crowd controlled. So I go for a peel by lightning lassoing the hunter in an attempt to deny the freezing trap. Then I stop it to activate Tremor Totem to deny the psychic scream. Regardless, they were able to secure the freezing trap. In this position, you would want to go into Ghost Wolf. So now in Ghost Wolf, I move on top of my healer to thunderstorm them away and deny any sort of follow-up, maybe a kidney shot on my healer, something like that. I use a thunderstorm to prevent some damage. And then as soon as that crowd control is over, you're back on offense, keeping flame shocks on as many targets as possible, generating that maelstrom. But your main goal, especially against a discipline healer, is to survive over all else. But in this position, we have crowd control with a leg sweep, so I go for a Stormkeeper and a lightning lasso, and I coordinate with a storm bolt from my warrior on the rogue to deny the rogue's preventing my lightning lasso. It's important that you coordinate that so your lightning lassos are effective. But using that Stormkeeper, you want to time it when you have the healer in crowd control. So in that position, they were in a leg sweep with no trinket after being caught in a warrior fear. In this position, my Mistweaver uses a defensive cooldown preempting the crowd control. He predicted it because of the positioning. He saw the enemies running towards him. He predicted it and used Life Cocoon on me, which absorbed a lot of damage. I opted to use Astral Shift as well, and it may not not have been necessary. That is definitely a cooldown overlap in that position, and it will leave us exposed a bit later. Now we go for the double stun, Stormbolt on Rogue, Lightning Lasso on Hunter, deny any sort of stop, and get a lot of pressure. Ultimately, you can see the Disciplined Priest, that blue bar below his health, is not looking too good, and that's the main goal of our team. If we can't kill them in those Stormbolt Lightning Lassos, then with consistent damage, we'll run the Priest out of mana and look for a kill later on. Defensively, I could have been looking for hexes as well, like hexes on the Rogue in this position with no trinket. My Mistweaver ends up getting feared slightly out of range, so I have to move in with Ghost Wolf, and I attempt, what I could have attempted there was a grounding totem on the freezing trap. The Hunter used grappling hook. Anytime he uses that grappling hook to get to a healer, it's almost 100% certain that the Hunter is going to trap out of that. So you can use grounding totem right as that grappling hook connects and potentially ground a freezing trap on your healer, and that's what you should be looking for with the grounding totem in a matchup against a Hunter in particular. Now obviously the Hunter was our target. We had got a defensive cooldown from him earlier, but you still want to just switch if he starts kiting away. Then when he comes back to being the main target here, we can switch right back to him. But ultimately, we have managed to extend the game long enough now that the Priest has basically no mana left, and the next time that I can get a Lightning Lasso off, we're pretty close to winning. I dropped some Earthquakes to try and just cleave them down and stun them a bit so I can get some hard-casted Lava Burst off to generate Maelstrom. But ultimately, Lightning Lasso, Stormbolt, combination right when my Mistweaver was caught in a stun, denying the freezing trap for a few seconds and ultimately executing the kill allowed us to find victory. So basically anytime your healer is in crowd control, you want to be using Ghost Wolf. You want to kite away from them at the start and then start running back towards them as it ends so that they can heal you right away. You don't want to make them have to chase after you right when their crowd control ends, or it's going to put you really far behind. You definitely want to make sure that you're getting that loop right back to your healer, and you try and figure out what the chain is. So in this game, as an example, as an improvement that I could have made, is using Grounding Totem when that grappling hook animation goes off to try and at least delay the freezing trap. Then my Mistweaver can move because he's no longer rooted by the harpoon and dodge it, or I can Grounding Totem and completely remove the freezing trap from the game. So it's all about breaking up that chain, kiting away while it's active, and then moving back as it ends. And now trading Astral Shift for enemy cooldowns or when your healer is crowd controlled. Usually with a Mistweaver Monk, you are much more afraid of crowd control than you are cooldowns. So a Vendetta is typically scary from an Assassination Rogue in that matchup, but with a Mistweaver's healing output, if they're not crowd controlled, it's really not that intimidating. It is only then intimidating if they are crowd controlled. So you really want to pay attention to crowd control if you're playing with a Mistweaver healer, and I highly suggest playing with a Mistweaver healer currently in the patch 8.1 because they are definitely the strongest healer out there. So I hope that this video comes to of use to you. I am making videos and guides every single day and doing my best to level every single specialization to hit all of them as per the requests. I know a Holy Paladin guide has been highly requested. I'm about level 119 on my Paladin, and then I'm going to try and deck it out and get some matches in and try and push some rating and kind of give you my thoughts. So I hope that this video was helpful, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.